Now let us go and see how we can make use of the SQLAlchemy in our application. So the SQLAlchemy is a Python toolkit and the object relational mapper that gives the application developer the full power and the flexibility of SQL or the SQL over here. Basically, once we are using or making use of the database in the Python project, we basically write a raw query to connect to the database, writing the raw query to get or to create the some kind of the users or the data to our database, right? Basically, the code operation is done using the raw query. But if we use this particular SQLAlchemy over here, that provides us the much more easier way to create our database instance, creating our tables, right? Writing all of our query will be much more easier using the object relational mapper over here. So we'll be using this in our application over here, and for that what we need to do is we just need to go and grab the dependency. So let's go to the quick installation guide over here, and we'll just go and grab the dependency that will be of the SQLAlchemy over here, and we just need to go and install it using the pip install. And in the requirements we just need to add that particular dependency, and we'll just go and install that particular dependency using the pip install -r requirement.txt. And once the installation is completed, what we need to do is now we are ready to make use of the SQLAlchemy in our project. The first thing that we will do is we'll go to the core over here, and let's go and create the core folder, and I'll create a data folder, and inside of this I'll create the one more which will be of the source, and inside of the source I'll add the one more which will be of the local source, and the one more will be of the remote over here. So I'll be defining this particular folder structure, but you may also just go and create inside it the core data and just remove the source and just keep the local and the remote. But for now we don't have any remote. I'm just going to show you how we can add that particular folder structure over here, and if you want you can just remove that, and we'll be just using the local for now. And inside this particular local I'm going to create the one more new file, base.py file over here. And with this particular base.py file I'm going to from the SQLAlchemy I'll be importing the SQLAlchemy.orm. I'm going to import the declarative base over here. So this is the base class, that's or the factory method that we are going to import, and I'm going to create the variable the base over here that will be of equals to the declarative base. This is the factory constructor that's going to create the base interface for us actually. And if you go to the documentation, you can just go and read this one over here. The new construct a base class for the declarative class definition, right? The new base class will be given a metadata that produces appropriate class like the SQLAlchemy, the schema, the table, objects, and makes the appropriate class ORM mapper and all of this stuff. So I will recommend you to go and read the documentation over here, and from where you can understand get the clear understanding of how to use it and what it actually does over here. For now what it actually does for us is it creates the base instance for us or the parent class for us, and later once we create our database model we will be importing this particular base from this particular location, and we will be using it as our parent class, or we will be inheriting much of the stuff from this particular base class, like to generate our database table, model, database instance, and all of those stuff. So it provides a lot of the functionality for us actually. Without this base or without this particular declarative base, we will not be able to just go and do the automated creation of our table having the relationship with the different table, right? So to make use of those functionality that is provided by the SQL ORM, we need to make use of this particular base over here, or the declarative base over here. This is just the variable that we have created. We are actually going to make use of the declarative base that's going to create for us the construct a new base class actually, and that we'll be using it as an interface in our subclasses. So for now it may be a bit confusing. Just go and read the documentation, and later we will see how we'll be using it actually in our application once we get started with creating our model.